Okay, welcome. It's Tuesday. I thought I'd bring it back to basics today in terms of attention training. So here's where I'm going with this. The whole premise of what we do here is this idea of self-directed positive brain plasticity. So self-directed refers to the fact that we're choosing the experiences that we want rather than just kind of waiting for life to dish out anxiety or sadness or anger, whatever it might be. And then positive, obviously, I can't think of anyone that I work with who doesn't want more positivity in their life. So calm, equanimity, gratitude, forgiveness, all the what I would call the good stuff of the human experience. And then this idea of brain plasticity and just remembering that everything we do is shaping the structure and function of our brain. So literally every experience that we have has an influence on how our brain functions. And there are these two key parts to brain plasticity that I want to focus on today. The first one is, you've probably heard this saying before: neurons that fire together wire together. So when we have experiences, whether we're directing them or not, any experience that we have repeatedly stimulates certain collections of neurons to communicate with each other through these synaptic connections. And if our brain experiences that same uh, behavior or experience over and over again, at some point it says, okay, got it. We're doing this a lot. So let's wire it up. And those of us that struggle with, various mental health issues, anxiety, depression, OCD, and so forth, really on a neurologic basis, what's happening there is we've had so many of those experiences that our brain's gotten really good at that, ramping up that anxiety when something happens, meaning all of those neurons that give us the subjective experience of anxiety, they're firing away, and they've gotten really good at it because they're all wired up. We've had so many experiences like that. Now, the other part of neuroplasticity that I think a lot of people don't realize is this idea that neurons that stop firing together will eventually unwire. And the technical term for that is pruning. So if we stop having certain experiences over a period of time, our brain literally reduces the number of synaptic connections, and the subjective experience that we then have is that we have less and less of that experience. Now, the trick is, or the key ingredient there that allows us to determine which of these mechanisms are being activated, is our attention. So in my experience, most of us, when we experience something like anxiety, there's usually this sort of frontal approach. We don't like the anxiety, it feels terrible. And so we focus on the anxiety, we focus our attention on it and say, how do I get rid of this? How do I prevent this from happening? Unfortunately, really what we're doing is we're feeding more and more attention into that anxious experience, which means that all of those synaptic connections that are creating that experience in the first place, they're active, they're firing away. And over the years, I've learned that depression and anxiety, rather than focusing on them, one of the ways to reduce them is to actually just redirect our attention elsewhere and not feed those neural connections that are giving us that subjective experience. So attentional control is a pretty important skill for us all to learn. And so I thought today we'd really intentionally and consciously focus on noticing how we can actually choose where our attention goes, so that in the future, if you experience anxiety or anger or something that feels really uncomfortable, rather than trying to push it away, is to redirect your attention to something that you do want. And so let's try that out today. So let's start by closing our eyes. Right from the get-go, activate your attentional control by bringing the attention inward. one of the best objects to focus your attention on is the body. We all have a body, and it is filled with sensations. It's filled with experience all the time. And so right now, let's let go of any external experiences and just bring that attention inward. Maybe start by noticing the belly. I immediately noticed a tightness in my belly. So intentionally try to relax and soften the belly, noticing how breath impacts the sensation in the belly, expansion and contraction. Just for a brief moment, notice how when you focus your attention on sensations in the belly, you're not noticing lots of other things. So we're going to just shift our attention for a second to all the other things that are happening at the same time. So there are sounds. You can probably feel air, cool air on your arms or your face. Maybe notice, bring your attention to the feet. What we're doing by moving our attention around is we're activating attentional control. We're choosing where we want our attention to go. Now notice the hands, sensations in your fingertips or the palms of your hands. And then back to the belly. Just notice what it's like to choose where you focus your attention and how that's different from simply experiencing external stimuli. So again, sounds, other sensory experiences, they're just happening to us. We don't choose sounds. We don't choose thoughts. We don't choose emotions or other sensations. But we can choose where we place our attention. Just resting on the experience of the belly in this moment. You're not trying to force anything. You're not trying to create any experience. You're simply noticing. Noticing how the belly expands with each in-breath and then contracts with each out-breath. Really simple awareness. It's quite simple, but surprisingly difficult because I'm guessing the longer there's silence, the more our attention starts drifting to thoughts, to memories. And then we can flex our attentional control by choosing to bring the attention back to just noticing the belly. So long as we're focused on the experience of the belly, we're not focusing on anxiety, worries, or whatever else may be preoccupying your mind usually. Like a moment of respite, just to focus on one thing, and just bear witness to it. And take a deep breath in, long, slow exhale, still noticing the belly. Notice what happens to the belly as you exhale all the way, and then hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do that again. In, long exhale, keeping your attention on the belly. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead, open your eyes, come on back. And notice as you open your eyes, where does your attention go? Right, so this is the reality is this is happening all day long, and our brains are constantly being stimulated by all kinds of inputs, sensory inputs, and other things. I think one path to some degree of freedom from anxiety and depression is learning how to focus your attention on an object of your choosing, and that just reduces the amount of activity that those other parts of the brain get. Hope that was helpful.